The wind rolled across the prairie like a slow, restless breath, bending the tall grass until it whispered secrets to the sky. Dust clung to the air, warm and heavy, as if the land itself was holding on to a memory it refused to release. At the edge of a half-forgotten town stood a woman with a child pressed tight against her side, her eyes fixed on the lone cowboy approaching from the horizon. He rode without hurry, hat pulled low, coat faded from years under the sun. His horse moved steady, unbothered by the tension thickening the air. People watched from behind shuttered windows and broken fences, sensing that something final was about to happen. This town had learned long ago that when strangers came carrying silence instead of words, trouble followed close behind. The woman swallowed hard. Her name was Clara Hale, though most of the town knew her simply as the widow with the quiet boy. Her husband had died 2 winters ago, shot over a debt he never owed, and since then the world had sharpened its teeth around her. The men who now ruled the town wore law badges by day and cruelty by night. They had come for her son that morning, claiming he had seen something he shouldn't have. She knelt in front of the boy, brushing dust from his dark hair with trembling fingers. He was no more than 8, his eyes too old for his face. He hadn't cried. He hadn't spoken. He had only looked at her as if asking a question she didn't know how to answer. When the cowboy dismounted, the ground seemed to still beneath his boots. He studied Clara with a gaze that felt both distant and painfully present, like he was seeing her now and remembering her from another life at the same time. "They'll kill him," she said, her voice breaking through the quiet. "Or worse." The cowboy said nothing. She stood, pulling the boy behind her, though she knew her body was no shield against men with guns and power. Desperation pressed against her ribs until it stole her breath. She had nothing left to bargain with. No money, no allies, no future that didn't end in blood. "If you protect my son," she said, the words tearing themselves out of her chest, "I'll be yours forever." The town seemed to inhale all at once. The cowboy's hand rested near his holster, but he didn't reach for it. Instead, he lifted his head and looked past her, toward the sheriff's office at the center of town, where 3 men stood watching from the porch. They smiled like men who believed the ending was already written. When the cowboy finally spoke, his voice was calm, almost gentle. "I won't take what's offered out of fear," he said. A murmur rippled through the onlookers. Clara's heart sank so fast it felt like it might tear her apart. For one fragile second, hope had dared to exist. "But," he continued, turning back to her, "I'll protect your son anyway." Her breath hitched. "Why?" He knelt then, bringing himself level with the boy. The child didn't flinch. The cowboy studied him the way a man studies the horizon before a storm. "Because someone should have done the same for me," he said. The sheriff stepped forward, boots thudding against the wooden porch. "You got no stake here, stranger," he called out. "This is town business." The cowboy stood slowly, dusting off his knees. "Then your town's got a sickness," he replied, "and I've never been good at walking away from those." The sheriff laughed, but it rang hollow. "You think one man can stop us?" The cowboy's eyes flicked to the men at the sheriff's side, then to the rifles leaning against the wall, then to the nervous hands twitching near triggers across the street. He nodded once, like he had finished counting. "I don't think," he said. "I know." The first shot shattered the quiet. What followed wasn't chaos, but precision. The cowboy moved like a man who had danced with death long enough to know its rhythm. Each motion was measured, each breath controlled. Gun smoke curled through the air as bodies fell, not dramatically, but inevitably, as if gravity itself had turned against them. Clara covered her son's eyes, though she wasn't sure if she was protecting him or herself. When it was over, the street was silent again. The sheriff lay sprawled near the porch, his badge dark with blood. The men who had believed themselves untouchable were now nothing more than still shapes in the dust. The cowboy reloaded his gun, then holstered it with care. He looked older now, the way men do after finishing something they never wanted to start. The townspeople didn't cheer, they didn't speak. They simply watched, as if afraid the moment would break if acknowledged. Clara's legs gave out beneath her. She sank to the ground, pulling her son close, sobs finally tearing free. The boy clung to her, shaking. The cowboy approached and crouched beside them. "It's done," he said softly. "They won't come back." She looked up at him through tears. "I meant what I said," she whispered. "I'll go with you. Wherever you go, I won't be a burden." His expression didn't change, but something flickered behind his eyes. Pain, memory, regret. "You don't belong to me," he said, "and neither does your future." She frowned. "Then why stay?" He stood and glanced toward the horizon again, where the land stretched wide and unforgiving. "Because this place needs time to heal," he said, "and you need roots, not roads." Over the following weeks, the cowboy stayed. He helped bury the dead and burn the sheriff's office to the ground. He taught the townsfolk how to stand their ground, how to protect one another instead of waiting for someone else to do it for them. He fixed fences, mended roofs, and spoke little. The boy followed him everywhere, watching, learning. Sometimes the cowboy would catch the child staring at him with open wonder. One evening, as the sun bled red across the sky, the boy finally spoke. "Were you scared?" The cowboy considered the question. "Every day," he said. "Courage ain't the absence of fear. It's deciding something else matters more." The boy nodded as if he understood. When the time came for the cowboy to leave, the town gathered silently. Clara stood with her son, her heart heavy in a way that felt different from grief. This wasn't loss. It was something quieter. "You could stay," she said, hope trembling in her voice. He smiled, just barely. "If I stay too long, trouble learns my name." She reached for him, then stopped herself. "You changed our lives," she said. "How do we repay that?" He looked down at the boy. "Raise him kind," he said. "Teach him to stand up when it matters. That'll be enough." He mounted his horse as the first stars appeared overhead. The boy ran forward and pressed something into the cowboy's hand. A small wooden carving, rough and imperfect. "So you don't forget us," the boy said. The cowboy closed his fingers around it. "Like I ever could." As he rode away, Clara realized the truth of his shocking response. He hadn't rejected her offer because he didn't care. He had refused it because he did. He had chosen to protect without owning, to save without claiming, to love without binding. And in that choice, he gave them something far greater than safety. He gave them freedom.